Hello, everyone. I'm State Senator Judy Schwenk, and this is an exciting time of year, not just because I'm a politician, but because elections are the way for us to truly participate in our democracy. I always, feel like I am exercising my rights as a citizen and being a good one when I go to the polls and vote, or whether I vote by mail or on an absentee ballot. So in an effort to try to help everyone kind of decipher what they're going to see on their ballot and be prepared before they start to mark those boxes or press that button, whatever it may be, that we have a better understanding of exactly what we're going to do and vote on in this May 18th primary, Tuesday, May 18th. So I've asked Debbie Gross, who is the Executive Director of Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, to talk to us about the judicial pieces of the election that we're going to be looking at. That's actually the largest part of the ballot that you will see, in addition to the constitutional amendments. We won't talk about those today. We're just going to focus on the courts. Debbie, welcome. Thank you for being here. Tell us what Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts actually does.
Thank you for having us. And this is very exciting for me personally. So Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts is a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan, that was established about 35 years ago, arising out of a commission created by Governor Casey that was formed because of some judicial campaign scandals, I will say. PMC is dedicated to assuring a judicial system that provides impartiality, fairness, accessibility, and respect. So we advocate for reforms that promote the rule of law, access to justice, and a diverse and qualified and independent judiciary. We have programs that we go out to the community to educate the community about the court system, literally court basics, and then about areas of law, because a lot of people we want people to be comfortable when they go into court. A lot of people go into court on their own, but they shouldn't have this underlying fear without having any, information always gives people security.
Information is power, right?
Right. Correct.
So, yeah. So you are, as you said, nonpartisan. You're not necessarily advocating you do not advocate for candidates.
Correct.
Strictly cannot do that, actually, probably under your license.
Yes.
Or your, your designation by the IRS. But at any rate, I thought you would be perfect to help us understand, what we'll be seeing on the ballot in terms of judges' races, because, we get the names mixed up between Commonwealth Court and Court of Common Pleas. And what's the difference between the Supreme Court and the Superior Court? I've always had these questions, so I thought my constituents would too. So I know you had produced this graphic, and we've put this on our website and as well as on Facebook so that people could see it. Can you go through it for us, please?
Absolutely. So the highest court in Pennsylvania, that's our Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. There are 7 justices of the Supreme Court. There's actually 1 opening. So in the May primary, you will be electing either a Democrat or Republican that would then run again in the November against each other in the November election. The Supreme Court is our highest court. It's sort of our court of last resort, we say. If you start cases at the bottom of the triangle and they work their way up, that court doesn't have to take a case. It's a discretionary matter, and they handle about 300 to 400 cases a year. I'm going to take a step below that, the Superior Court and the Commonwealth Court. Those are our intermediate appellate courts. That's what how we refer to them. And the Superior Court has 15 judges. Right now, we actually have a majority of women on the Superior Court. There is 1 spot available for this coming election for the Superior Court, and there are, again, candidates from both parties running for the Superior Court. The Superior Court is actually the busiest court in our country. It can handle almost 8,000 cases a year. And it usually, I'd like to say, is the final arbiter of many of these matters because the Supreme Court doesn't take them. So again, you would, a case could start in one of the minor courts or lower courts. You're not happy with the decision, and it's appealed to the Superior Court. The Commonwealth Court is a court that's unique to Pennsylvania. No other state has a court like this. It is a court where the matters involve a county, a state, a governmental entity, and then a few other matters. But the Commonwealth Court for this term has 2 spots that are open. And the Commonwealth Court has 9 members. It is, again, these appellate courts, the Commonwealth Court, the Superior Court, and the Supreme Court, decide matters across the state. So they are not focused on, a particular geographic area, but when they decide something, they apply the law similarly across the state for everybody.
Okay, so that's good to know that this is just for the state of Pennsylvania. And as you said, we're unique in having a Commonwealth Court. One question I have for you is what's the difference between what the cases the Superior Court takes versus the cases that the Commonwealth Court takes? Does Superior Court only do criminal cases?
No, the Superior Court does civil as well, but it doesn't really handle cases that involve the government in municipal matters or violations of code. So, for example, the Commonwealth Court recently issued a decision involving the governor's emergency orders. It was the first court to issue those decisions, which would then, if people weren't happy with that ruling, were then appealed to the Supreme Court. But the Superior Court has a lot of criminal appeals. Okay, that's right, against somebody for violating a law, but also has a lot of appeals of civil matters. So that's, you could be suing a business, and your business could be suing somebody else for breach of contract. I mean, the court system really affects everyday life. People don't realize it, but whether you like it or not, many disputes end up in court. I mean, we try to resolve them without getting judges involved, but a dispute over education, a dispute over healthcare, a dispute over a tree falling, I mean, they end up in court.
So it's good that we, focus on this, and when we go to the polling place, have an idea of what we're voting for. We're not talking about the qualifications of candidates today. We purposefully wanted to avoid that because I don't want any of this to appear to be partisan. I just wanted to explain to people exactly what they're voting for.
But I will tell you that people should investigate, right?
Yes.
You shouldn't go to the polls and just say to somebody, just look at the names and say, I like this person's name.
Or it's a woman, so I'm going to vote for her.
You really should investigate. And some of the best ways to investigate, for example, for the appellate court, for the intermediate and superior court, judges, some of the area bar associations do a very thorough investigation, and they come out with their own recommendations. The candidates actually fill out questionnaires that they submit to the bar associations, so that you as a voter can access those questionnaires, review it. I know that we at Pennsylvanians for Modern Court held candidate forums for the Supreme Court candidates, the Superior Court candidates, the Commonwealth Court candidates, and those are available on our website at pmconline.org. We are limited in the types of questions that you can ask the candidates because they cannot answer questions which would deal with a case that could be in front of them or a topic of a case that could be in front of them. But we did ask the candidates questions about their background, about what types of law they practice, what their experience was, what their nonprofit work is, what they do in their spare time. You can get information and learn about the candidates, which is really important.
Okay, that is good to know. Thank you. I totally agree with you. You do need to do some research, but you're going to have to do a little bit of looking. And fortunately, we have the internet to help us with that. And I'm going to repeat your website. It's pmconline.org, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right, I'll be checking that one out myself.
Okay.
Now, we have other judicial races as well. So the court underneath that is the Court of Common Pleas, correct? And that's in every single county has a Court of Common Pleas, correct?
That's correct. So
let's look at that graphic again for a second, if we can. Okay, there we go.
And so in Berks County, right?
Yep.
You have two Court of Common Pleas judges or seats, two seats that are available for Court of Common Pleas. So again, you know, you can research there on the ballot. There'll be a number of names. The Court of Common Pleas is a court where there are jury trials, where there are bench trials, where you would go into the Court of Common Pleas if you had a matter that was greater than $12,000, a dispute that was greater than $12,000. That would be your entrance, I'll say, into the court system. And there are two spots available in the Berks County Court of Common Pleas.
Very good. That also is good to know. And there have been some, you know, information locally, what the Berks County Bar Association, you know, had a voting process, but there are other opportunities to find out more about those candidates, and many of them have websites, so you can take a look at that as well. What do we mean by minor courts?
The minor courts are the entry-level courts, right? They are courts that have the judges that run those courts are called the magisterial district judges. So sometimes people are more familiar with the term MDJ. There are 6 openings of the magisterial district judges in Berks County. They are they are elected every 6 years, a magisterial district judge. It's interesting to know that a MDJ doesn't have to be a lawyer. An MDJ, if that person is not a lawyer, that person has to take a course and pass the course in order to run. And there are many MDJs that are not lawyers across the state. So it's not, you know, it doesn't mean that, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just, you know, giving you a piece of information. And in the minor courts, you usually go there for a traffic ticket, for a landlord-tenant dispute, for something that's under $12,000, and certain criminal and, you know, arraignments initially.
Right, you have a dispute with a neighbor or a truancy issue. And so these MDJs, if we'll use the abbreviation, can be very, very important, and they serve, they're different. While we have all those, you know, we have seats open countywide, it depends upon where you live, whether you are in a district that has a vacancy in terms of an MDJ position, whether you'll be voting on one or not. I know where I live, I won't be voting on one, and they are not up for re-election, but there are some vacancies, particularly in the city. So that's something that you may see it on your ballot. So take a look, make sure that you know who they are, because they truly do matter, and they have leeway to work with people to help them try to resolve issues, so that you don't have to go into the Court of Common Pleas or further.
So in your city of Reading, 1, 2, 3, there are 3 openings for MDJs. And then there is an opening of an MDJ in Exeter Township, an MDJ opening in Windsor Township, and an opening in Sinking Spring Borough.
Right.
So you know.
So now you get an idea for folks that are listening, I hope you are, that they're very, very regionally community kind of based, because they need to know their communities and understand some of the issues that people are facing.
Right.
This has been really helpful. Thank you, Debbie, so much for going over that with us. One thing to remind everybody before we close this out, one, is that even if you're not registered as a Democrat or a Republican, if you're independent, you're registered to vote, of course, you could go to the polls, you should, because there are a few ballot questions, changes to amendments to our Pennsylvania Constitution. We'll talk about those in, I hope, in another Facebook post and live kind of, opportunity. But remember that it's May 18th, Tuesday, May 18th. or you can apply for a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot with the Berks County Election Services. So don't forget that this is coming up. And I hope that it helps give you an idea of, what are those judges, who, not necessarily who they are, but what do they do? And so you can make a wise choice when you go to the polls. So I hope that's helpful. Don't forget to look at Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts to, pcmonline.org to get an understanding of those appellate court judge, candidates. Debbie, thank you again. And thank you everyone for, being with us today.